Hi guys, welcome to my first video. Over the last couple of weeks, I've made a couple batches of beef jerky, and some of you have asked how I do it. So, in the spirit of getting out of my comfort zone, I'm actually going to make a video and put it out there for 12 people to see. So today we're going to be doing beef jerky. It's super simple to do. Even I can do it. I suck in the kitchen. I really can't cook for shit. But if I can do it, so can you. So what you're going to need for this part is your knife, your cutting board, your bowl, and a hunk of meat. If you don't have any of these things, you're not an adult and you may as well just switch the video off now. But with our hunk of meat, I've been using bottom round, top round, center round. Any big chunk of meat like this will work. The key aspect that you need to look for is not having a lot of that marbling going through the meat grain itself. Some videos have said to cut along with the grain. I cut against it. It's a lot easier to break apart and chew and cut the shape as desired. We will be trimming all this off, so let's get down to the cutting. I'll show you how to do it. Again, this is all super easy. I figured it out on the fly, and you can too. Let's get cutting. Okay, our meat's all cut up. As you saw, I had a lot more fatty marbling in there than I could see on the surface. That's kind of just a risk that you take sometimes, especially when buying meat that's on sale. So I trimmed that down a little bit further, got the hunks of meat out of there. I'm actually gonna make dog treats out of it because I love my dogs more than I love most people, and they deserve treats too. So, flavoring aspect of things. There's really no rules for this, guys. Whatever you want to do works. I've seen recipes for Coca-Cola, coffee. I tried using spent coffee grounds. Don't do that. It really destroyed the meat. Turned out like shit. I was pretty pissed off about that because I didn't learn about science before that happened. So it really over dehydrated the meat. It sucked all the moisture and oils out of the meat, and it turned out like shit. But one of the bases that I've been using is a less sodium or light soy sauce. You can really stretch it out a little bit. Put all your meat in a bowl. This is a complicated part. If you want to write things down, by all means, grab one of these little notebooks and a pen. Most adults should have these in their pockets at all times anyway, but that's just me. So, a little bit of soy sauce. Don't put too much. You can always add more. It's a lot harder to pull it out. Worcestershire sauce is another base that I've been a fan of. Don't use a lot of this either because it is extremely potent. It's pretty strong, so just like a little bit will do ya. Garlic powder. And again, this is why I'm keeping the cuts from my puppies aside, because garlic is extremely bad for dogs, so don't use flavoring when you're making dog treats if you decide to do that, because a lot of this stuff is actually really poisonous for dogs, and if you kill your dog, that's really terrible. So, garlic. My wife loves garlic. A little bit of smoked salt, because why not? And I don't have a lot of it left. It's literally whatever you have lying in your spice cabinet. Anything will work in there. The salt will help cure the meat as well. Black pepper. Get a nice dab in there. A little bit of regular salt too to kind of stretch out that smoked salt because it's not cheap. And just kind of mix it around, kind of eyeball it. Make sure there's an even coat on everything. It's mixed up really well. And smelling it smells really good. A little more soy in there. You shouldn't have a lot of liquid in there, but it should be enough to coat everything, give everything a nice wash. Now, when you're storing this or letting it marinate, kind of treat it like you would a guacamole. Get a sheet of saran wrap, kind of push it down so there's not a lot of air in there. If you're doing just a regular marinade, like probably most of you will be, pack it in there, throw it in the fridge, anywhere between 6 to 10 hours. It doesn't matter. The longer you have it sitting there, the stronger it'll be. I'm gonna vacuum seal mine because I have a vacuum sealer and I use it all the time. You can find them on Amazon for 60, 70 bucks. We constantly use it. We try to go to the stores the least amount as possible. And when there's great sales on like meats and stuff like that, you can buy in bulk, vacuum seal it, throw in the freezer, and it's good to go. So now that we're done with that, we're gonna seal it up and we'll come back in a couple hours and check on it. Okay, we're back. It's about 4 hours later. As you can see, get the potential dog treats separated in a bag. This has been sitting in the fridge. I laid the meat as flat as possible in the vacuum sealer just to not only get all the air out of there, but get everything sort of equally saturated in the flavoring. I'm gonna be using my food dehydrator. I use this all the time. I got it for Christmas from my mother-in-law, and I use it pretty much every other day. So you can find this on Amazon for, I don't know, 60 bucks or so. If you're gonna be using a stove, keep it to a really low heat, like under 200 degrees, and open the stove door a little bit as well so you get the humidity going out there. I'm gonna be doing this for about 4 hours. In the stove, it's probably around the same amount of time, but you kind of just do it to texture. You want it to be able to bend, but not, you want the meat to be able to bend, but not break. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. So the dehydrator just shut off, had it at 160 for about 4 hours. And as you can see, look at the top row here. It's a little bit dried out, bendable, pliable, but not breakable. You don't want it too dry. This is one of the dog treat pieces, so you can see a little bit of fattiness in there. So what I've done is I've preheated my oven to 275. We're gonna stick it in there for about 15-20 minutes just to cook everything all the way through. So let's take all this out, keep the dog treats separate from the other stuff. You'll see it all on the cookie sheet, and into the oven. All right. Okay, so 10 hours later, there's my batch of jerky. Pretty easy. So I started the day not knowing how to do film editing, not really understanding how all of this works. Kind of an unintentional Luddite when it comes to all this, but I got my little tripod in the mail. Cost me a couple bucks from Amazon, nothing big, and I kind of just figured it out. Now, kind of stems from three things, one of which is boredom. I hate being bored. My wife can attest to that. I drive her insane whenever I'm bored. Being furloughed from my job currently, I had some time, and I wanted to challenge myself to do new things. Two, it kind of stems from going to see Pablo Picasso's art exhibit at the museum downtown Chicago a couple years back. Now, I sure as hell am not comparing this to anything Picasso has ever done at all. But what I saw at the Picasso exhibit a few years back were his sketchbooks. That was a really important thing for me to see, not only as somebody who considers himself somewhat creative, but also likes to see the process. I learned by doing things. To the 12 of you that are gonna watch this video, hopefully you're the same way. I've read recipes before, whether it's making jerky or cocktails or whatever we're trying to learn. And at the end of the day, you just gotta kind of get in there and do it. Which brings me to number three. Somebody I respected and admired a few months back told me to practice being uncomfortable. Get out of your comfort zone. I'm not sure what he was referring to specifically. I don't think it was into anything specifically at all. But challenge yourself. I don't want to make this too long-winded, but challenge yourself. We all have a lot more talent than we think. We are capable of things that we might not think we're capable of. And sometimes we're not. The important part is getting out there and trying. May not have to make a video about it, but the important part is getting out there and trying. If you want to do something, try and do it. And if you fail and you can't do it, that's a lot easier than not trying at all. So anyway, in these tough times, it's important to occupy our minds rather than sit around and wait for better days to come. Make better days for yourself, because right now it's all we've got. And when everything gets back to normal, see you all for a nice glass of whiskey. I never ever drink through any creative process. I always save it for the end because it's that much better. So, even though I'm furloughed, I'm looking forward to getting back to work like we all are. And until then, stay positive, stay as healthy as you can, and try to put some wrinkles on your brain. That's about it. All right, good night.